The Country of Georgia by Syester-Mastrocola. Georgia is located north of Turkey and Armenia, northwest of Azerbaijan, east of the Black Sea, and it is south of Russia. It is slightly smaller than the state of South Carolina in the United States. Georgia's role in the Cold War. Russia wanted to take control of Georgia for a couple of reasons. The Russians wanted to prevent Georgia from joining NATO, which Georgia has long wanted to do. Both Russia and Georgia wanted to control South Ossetia and Abkhazia. With their new president, Georgia believed it had the support of the United States to keep Russia from taking control. However, in reality, due to fears of creating a war that could resemble World War III, the United States did not and had no intentions of actually supporting and backing up the country. Russia attacked and took control of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. These two territories of Georgia were stuck under Russian rule and had no one to help them out. Russia eventually withdrew from South Ossetia and Abkhazia, leaving some troops behind. Georgia and imperialism. Georgia faces an ongoing battle with Russia and the infliction of imperialism. Since its creation, Georgia has been invaded and attacked by Russia in an attempt to take control and power over the land. Some feel as though imperialism comes more from the United States rather than from Russia. This is because the U.S. has been a major ally in the helping of mobilizing and aiding and supporting the Georgian military. The U.S. government and media have shown the conflicts between Russia and Georgia over South Ossetia and Abkhazia as Russia returning to their Soviet-era domination of Georgia. Russia feels as though the United States' involvement with Georgia compromises its territorial integrity. Although Russia gave independence to South Ossetia and Abkhazia, they retained military presence in those areas. The Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic occurred during the post-Russian Revolution. By 1921, when Georgia was forcibly incorporated into the USSR. Russian assistance and support to Abkhazia and South Ossetia led to a 5-day conflict in 2008 between Russia and Georgia. The decolonization of Georgia. The United Nations granted decolonization to many European countries, including Georgia, in the early 1990s. The country gained independence in 1991 when the Georgian parliament declared secession from the Soviet Union. Independence was supported in a major referendum. Globalization. Oil pipelines that connect Europe to Asia were installed. There are 3 separate pipelines being implemented throughout the country. In 2014, the country signed an association agreement with the EU, paving the way to free trade and visa-free travel for citizens. This is a big step towards the West and away from Russia. The Georgian Prime Minister said at the time that the signing of the agreement was the beginning of a great journey. Russia threatened to respond with trade barriers and warned of serious consequences. Russia has threatened that if the agreement between Georgia and the EU causes negative effects on their economy, there will be repercussions. This is because the agreement puts Georgia in a position to buy, sell, and trade with 500 million European consumers. Here's a map of the pipelines being installed across Georgia from the east to the west. Social modernization post-1945. The Constitution of Georgia guarantees the freedom of speech for its citizens. The media of Georgia is the most free in the South Caucasus. The large percentage of Georgian households have a television, and Georgian media is considered progressive and liberal. Georgian government is trying to grow its film industry, establishing the Georgian National Film Center. The Film Center is responsible for promoting Georgian movies abroad, subsidizing Georgian movie production, and encouraging film industry development. While internet is rapidly growing in Georgia, it remains mostly concentrated in major towns due to a lack of internet infrastructure. In 2014, only about 49% of Georgians had internet access. Economic modernization post-1945. Tourism is an increasingly important part of Georgian economy. Attractions include mineral springs and over 12,000 historical and cultural monuments. According to the Georgian government, there are 103 resorts in different climate zones. As small as the country is, it has 4 international airports and many seaports, which are major cargo terminals. Neighboring Azerbaijan uses it as a transit point for making energy deliveries to Europe. Political modernization post-1945. Georgia went from being a part of the USSR to being able to elect their own president, prime minister, and other government officials. Georgia has a multi-party political system that includes the Georgian Dream Party, the National Forum, the United National Movement, the Free Democrats, and the New Political Center. Additionally, there are many extra-parliamentary parties. Cultural modernization post-1945. Television, newspapers, and magazines are owned by both for-profit and state-owned corporations. They depend upon advertising, subscriptions, and other sales-related revenue. In the 20th century, there have been well-known Georgian painters, ballet choreographers, poets, and theater and film directors. The Georgian folk song "Chukrulo" was one of 27 musical compositions sent into space with the Voyager 2 in 1977. Sports in Georgia have become more popular in recent years. The Georgian national basketball team qualified to Eurobasket, the European Basketball Championship, that is, in 3 tournaments since 2011. The Rose Revolution. In November 2003, the people of Georgia became very dissatisfied with their government under President Shevardnadze. Tens of thousands of demonstrators protested against the results of a parliamentary election. Shevardnadze deployed soldiers to defuse the demonstration. The student demonstrators began giving red roses, kisses, and hugs to the soldiers. Many of the soldiers laid down their arms. Michael Saakashvili was an American-educated 35-year-old who led the demonstration. Saakashvili forced his way into the Parliament building where Shevardnadze was giving a speech. Saakashvili waved a red rose in the face of the president, demanding that he resign. Shevardnadze was rushed out of a back door, and that was the day power exchanged hands. In January of 2004, Saakashvili was elected president. Following his election, Parliament passed amendments to the Constitution that gave Georgia a cabinet and a prime minister for the first time. The biggest challenges Georgia faces now: becoming part of the EU and NATO. Georgia is very hard-pressed to join the Euro-Atlantic integration, which is frowned upon by Russia. Russia feels that Georgia should follow its influence and fall under their rule rather than follow their own independence and desires. The biggest challenges Georgia faces now: unemployment is a major problem for Georgia, with their unemployment rate reaching 12% in 2016. This is due to a decline in labor force participation. They need to boost agricultural productivity because agriculture employs more than 50% of the population. Georgia suffers from severe pollution. A lot of agricultural land has been lost in erosion. Waste is disposed in poorly managed landfills. Steel plants, chemical production, and traffic cause serious air pollution. Water pollution and a lack of water treatment results in high incidence of digestive diseases. Since the 1970s, chemicals have been poorly disposed of and buried too shallow in the ground that the environment is weakening. It is their biggest threat to their environment. The goals that Georgia has at this point is the establishment of a democratic society. The country is working on improving management of social programs and the finances for these programs. The membership to international unions and organizations such as NATO and the EU are both a challenge and a goal for the country. Economic stability, including improved employment rates, improved environmental protection and cleanup, and increased tourism to help boost the economy are all on the to-do list for the country of Georgia.